Welcome to all of you who are here for the 61st meeting of Go Green Illinois. Some of you, I can tell, are brand new. This is a group that is a loose affiliation of community-based environmental advocacy groups that work all over. We have people registered from 42 different communities, not all around Chicagoland, but most of them. Together, we will be able to make more progress. We can learn from each other, share, collaborate. And the impact of all of us working together is surely more than all of us working independently. My name is Beth Drucker, and with Kim Stone, give a wave, Kim. Kim Stone and I co-founded Go Green Illinois in 2013, and we have had more and more people joining the group. We're delighted the COVID actually allowed us to broaden our base because we now do this via Zoom. We have 6 meetings a year, and we have topics we record all the meetings. They are available on the Go Green Illinois YouTube channel. You can, in January, we've had a program on sustainable schools. In March, we had a program on sustainable land care, grounds management, lawn care. And today the topic is sustainable food management, reducing food waste and composting in our communities. We have an amazing lineup of speakers who are taking time off from a very busy week. It is International Compost Awareness Week all over the globe. And the people we asked to speak were already very, very busy this week. So we really appreciate their time. We are going to, we will also have community sharing towards the end of the program. Depending on how we run, it may only be 20 minutes at the end. We hope that you'll stay on for that. Welcome to the groups that are just new. If you are in a community and there's no environmental group, a Go Green group in your community, write it in the chat so we know, because we may know people who would like to meet you. So for those of you working hard in your communities, congratulations. And 2023 is going to be a big year, I can tell. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Kim Stone, who will introduce our program and our first speaker.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to admit people too, but I'm going to
I'll admit people.
Leave that to you. So welcome everybody. Today, as Beth said, we're going to be talking about sustainable food management, reducing food waste and composting. So with anything waste related, the first step is always to reduce before you try and make something of it. So before composting, we're trying to reduce food waste. And some of our speakers have some really interesting ideas about how that can be accomplished. We're looking not at what you can do in your home. We're assuming that a lot of you have already worked to reduce food waste. We're assuming that a lot of you are already composting. But we want to figure out how we can do this at the community level. So we're hoping that the speakers will be able to give you some ideas that you can run with. The first speaker today is Jen Nelson, who works for 7 Generations Ahead. And I'm not going to go into long bios for people because I have bios for some people that are 2 pages long and no bios for other people. But we have Jen's expertise, which she's offered to share with us, and she'll give us an overview of this topic. So you're on mute, Jen.
Yep, working on sharing my screen so that you all can see the presentation. Let me know if this is looking good to all of you.
Yep, we've got it.
All right, and is it filling the full screen? Excellent, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to be here and presenting. I am the exciting kickoff speaker for an amazing group of people that are doing work in their communities already. And I've been tasked with doing the introduction to what are some of the reasons why we want to be focusing on this in our communities, and what are some of the resources that are available across the state of Illinois. So again, Jen Nelson with 7 Generations Ahead. We're a 22-year-old environmental nonprofit working to build healthy and sustainable communities. And in every project that we work on, we adhere to the Native American principle of considering the impact on the 7th generation. And for some reason, there we go. Sorry about that. We do work within a broad swath of sustainability initiatives, but I'm going to highlight the ones today related to wasted food. We have work, and Becky Brodsky is going to tell you a little bit later, but we've been working in zero waste schools since 2008, helping schools to reduce waste, including food waste. We are founding members of and continuing supporters of the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition, the Wasted Food Action Alliance. We have a farm to school program and much more. So I'm going to start today with wasted food by the numbers, because I think these presentations, you're going out and you're trying to engage your communities in doing more about wasted food. So having some of these numbers at your fingertips can be really helpful to start the conversation, to help people see the impact that needs to be made. And then I'm going to transition into looking at our actions, as Kim mentioned, prevention, rescue, and recycling. And then I'm going to share a bunch of different resources that I'm not going to go into great detail on, but the slides have links to all of these. So when they share the slide deck after the presentation, you will have all of these resources at your fingertips. So as we start looking at the numbers, food waste is the single largest material sent to landfills. And this is a problem on many, many different levels. And I think depending on who you're talking to in the community, different parts of this problem may engage them more. It's a social problem because with 40% of all of the food being wasted in the US, we still have more than 1 in 7 Americans that are food insecure. So again, that catches some people's attention and passion in the community. It's an environmental problem, again, because food production uses so many other resources as we produce it, we transport it, we sell it, we dispose of it. And then it's an economic problem. And this is one that gets a lot of municipalities engaged, because we do spend money to dispose of wasted food, but also for every dollar that's spent on food, society pays $2 on health, environmental, and other economic costs. So there are different angles that you can take depending on who you're talking to and what's going to catch their attention. I like to put this slide out there because I still think that there's not always an easy connection between food and the climate crisis for many people. And so this connecting the dots takes you through the fact that wasted food is 21% of material being sent to landfills, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council. But that wasted food in landfills creates methane, a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gases increasing causes global warming. And global warming, which is due to human activities, leads to long-term changes in our weather, which is known as climate change. We throw around those words a lot, and I think it's hard to know. People get confused whether we're talking about greenhouse gases or climate change or global warming and what they all mean. So I am sharing a resource with you that I absolutely love, not to hand to people, but to pull bits and pieces out of it. But if you haven't looked at Project Drawdown, you should definitely check it out online. This is an online, ever-changing and growing resource of research about the climate and how we can work to draw down carbon. That drawing down carbon means that we're hitting the point where instead of global warming increasing, we're actually drawing down enough carbon to reduce that amount, which means that we can change the climate crisis. And I'm excited about the fact that it's either number 3 or number 1, depending on how they list it. But it's exciting to know that reduced food waste is one of the top 3 solutions to the climate crisis. And when I hear that, that makes me realize that that's something that each one of us on this call can make a difference. I may not be able to go out and work on offshore wind turbines, but I can certainly address and share with others how we can be working to reduce wasted food. I like the quote from Chad Frischman, who is the Vice President and Research Director. The decisions we all make every day on the food we produce, purchase, and consume is perhaps the single most important contribution an individual can make. And I know that Kim started off and talked about the fact that we're not here about the individual changes, but we're here about how we can engage our communities. but our communities are made up of all of these individuals that have to support what we're proposing and be willing to engage in what our municipalities are going to roll out. So I'm going to end the research part here. I love this quote from MIT, huge research school. The research shows that just showing people research doesn't work, but give people the tools to learn for themselves, and that's when things get real. So it's time for us to get real. We're moving off of the data and on to what those solutions are and the tools. I thought a lot about this perspective when Kim and I talked about this presentation, and you're all community champions for sustainability already. And there are solutions that can be implemented on the education and engagement level, which are things that we can do with other partners within the community, other champions. And then there are the solutions that we want to be proposing and pushing for local government. So for each of these topic areas, I've listed just a few of them to think about. So when you think about food waste prevention, obviously educating and engaging people, raising awareness is critical. There are some really fun ways to implement community-wide challenges about reducing wasted food. And in a minute, I'll share a US EPA resource related to that. One of the things that you've probably heard over and over again, you can't reduce what you can't measure. Like, we need to be measuring and understanding how much food is being wasted. And so there are ways that we can have challenges in the community, that we can give people the tools to measure and see what they're wasting in their home that'll help their behavior to change. With local government, how many of you are living in communities that have a municipal climate action plan? And do you know if that plan has words about food waste reduction actions that are needed? If not, that's an area where you can start focusing. There are lots of models out there that can give you different language you can use. Kim, I can't see everyone's hands raised, but Kim in Highland Park has a municipal climate action plan. This is where you get to talk to each other and figure out what's working, but make sure it's in there. You want the city to be communicating about their commitment to food waste. I find I often jump on a municipal website and there's really nothing there about wasted food. And sometimes it's even hard just to find information about waste hauling and what's going on in the community. So this is an area where you can push. There should be educational materials available. There should be a commitment statement on the website. And city facilities should be used to highlight the fact that this is important and that your municipality is making efforts to reduce wasted food. Another big one is public events. How many of you have been to a public event that is zero waste or has waste reduction strategies in place? I definitely have, because I run them. So I've been to a number of them, but I do think while it's maybe a smaller impact, looking at diversion of waste, it's a huge opportunity for educating people. And it can be a small event. It can be it can be a larger one. We've done movies in the park that have a sorting station that educate people who attend about what's going on. But this commitment comes usually through the municipality because you want them to be providing the hauling services for you. I mentioned the great program that US EPA has. Food Too Good to Waste is a program targeting households, but it's something that's often taken on at the municipal level. I helped during the pilot phase when the Village of Oak Park rolled it out for their community. And it was creating a set of tools, education that was available on the Oak Park website that was sent to households about how you can better shop, store, prep food to be able to expand the life of it. And the link on here takes you to tools. I love the picture I've included on here about the Eat Me First. They have those, you can print them out, put them, organize your refrigerator. Those are all things that help people do it without it having to be hard or challenging or technical. Moving on to rescuing wasted food, I think we all know that we do have the dual problem of food that's being wasted and people that are hungry in our communities. There are ways that we can make it across the community, educate about rescuing imperfect produce, donating food or money to local food pantry and food distribution groups, encouraging your local institutions to donate food as well. And then encourage your municipality to have links to this. We talked about, is it visible on the website? Is it visible in the newsletter? That's another way to do this. A big local government change, though, can be supporting surplus food capture through incentives and recognition programs that your local government can take on, having an ordinance supporting surplus food capture, or looking at what are some of those barriers. Sometimes it's regulatory and sometimes it's just knowledge. When it comes to rescue and food donation, people are very afraid of liability. And there are both federal and state laws that help protect people against any liability in donating food. And sometimes the municipality can play a role in sending that information out and encouraging people to know that they can do this in a safe way. So recycling food scraps to return nutrients to soil. I know that Beth mentioned International Compost Awareness Week. It is a fun week of all sorts of information about what's happening in Illinois around composting. As a community, you can be looking at how many individuals you can get composting at home or taking advantage of a food scrap collection service. So does anyone have a guess how many municipalities in Illinois offer food scrap collection through the municipal residential program?
I'm going to guess less than 10.
You can, no hands need to be raised. Feel free to just unmute and shout it out. So we have a less than 10 from Kim. Anyone else?
60-ish.
15, 60-ish. Yeah, we have 68 municipalities in Illinois that offer the program. But offer is a really, really interesting word for that because it means it's written into their hauling contract, but it doesn't mean that the residents actually know that they have it. And so this is an area where Go Green has such a potential for impact because it's written into the contract. In most of these, it's not going to be any additional charge for residents to add their food scraps to yard waste or to participate in whatever program the municipality has, but people don't know about it. And they don't know about why it's important to take advantage of it. So this is a huge opportunity. Another one is using finished compost in your own yard or garden, providing education about composting at block parties or other local events, and looking at city-owned land that you can use for composting projects. Community composting is a huge way that takes it out of the backyard, but doesn't make it as big as having to transport food scraps somewhere farther away to be processed. It's done right in the community. So, and then I would say providing that curbside food scrap collection is something to talk to your municipality about. The Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition has a list of all those municipalities that offer this service. So you can go and look and see if your municipality is on that list. But even again, if it's on the list, make sure the local government is promoting it and sharing information about it. Again, this gets to incentives for commercial food waste generators. A big one is adopting a procurement policy favoring the use of finished compost products. I love the term earth disturbing activities because that can mean anything. That can mean plantings that are done. That can mean when they're replacing grass because they had to do a sewer replacement near your home. There's so many different opportunities for using finished compost and impacting the health of our soil. So I'm onto the resources part now. I know I've got a few minutes left, so I just want to share two really fun groups that can be a resource to all of you on this call. The Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition works to build policy, infrastructure, and education around composting in Illinois. Fantastic group. Really multidimensional, from solid waste agencies to haulers to compost processors to nonprofits and other groups that are helping to advocate for sustainable management of food. Many of you on this call are already aware of and have joined the monthly meetings. And it's been great to see you there, but for the rest of you, this is something that's a really valuable resource. The Wasted Food Action Alliance started a couple of years after the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition, and that's a group that looks at reducing wasted food across the entire food system, building connections across the food supply chain to look at prevention, rescue, and recycling. also monthly meetings on Zoom with fabulous resources and connections that can be made. Again, these are the slides with the links to the resources, so I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on these next couple slides, but the Wasted Food Action Alliance has a wealth of resources. We have focus on collaboration and networking and bringing ideas together between different groups, but we also have done some focused work with schools and grocery stores and hospitals and healthcare systems, and even looking at mapping between people and projects that are going on in this arena. So I encourage you to check out the website, join our work, join our conversations. And then these are some links from the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition. I'm on the board. We've got other board members on this call. I'm also co-chair of the Education Committee. I'm really big on how do we take the knowledge we have and share it easily. So there are lots of infographics. There are guides and toolkits depending on how you want to address composting in your community. There is a residential food scrap composting guide for Illinois municipalities. That one is the target audience would be your municipal leadership, but it's something that you could look at, and it shows you how you can talk to your municipal leaders about why this is something that they should be promoting. I'd like to leave you with a World Wildlife Fund quote. Our challenge should not be how to grow more food, but to feed more people while wasting less of what we already produce. And I'm going to encourage all of you to take action and understand that we can each take action in our lives, in our own personal lives, in our community, and in our state and across the country. These are things that we can all be doing and changing our behaviors and making a big difference. And I did include in here a link for there are still International Compost Awareness Week events happening that might be exciting for you to learn more. Tomorrow is a virtual legislative lunch and learn. So tune in and you can hear about policies on the state level and the federal level, and then ways that we can take that policy into action on the municipal level. That's one that Liz Kunkle has put together and is a fabulous resource. Thursday evening, there's an international cafe. You can see what's happening in composting around the world. And then there's an appy hour, appy being appetizers, not alcoholic beverages, but an appy hour at UIC on Friday afternoon to come and network and learn more from everyone about this. I am going to leave it here because I am excited to hear what our other speakers have to say. They're going to take all of this data and ideas that I just shared with you and show you how it's being put in action in communities around Illinois. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. That was perfect for setting the stage for what's coming next. And somebody, I don't know if it was you or if it was Liz Kunkle, but somebody shared with me, or maybe Jenny Fetterman, some information, one of those resources that you just showed. And I was able to take it and forward it on to city staff to ask that they include these things in their communications, so they didn't have to write them themselves. They could just take the language that was already written, which is always really helpful for municipal staff, especially on something like composting, where the language can be just, if it's a little bit off, it can be wrong. And so it's helpful to have that specific language so that the topic is, in fact, the information's in fact correct that we're giving out. So
I thought that the toolkit looks like a really, really great resource for all of you in communities where you haven't really started. That toolkit looks like a great place to start. Thanks for that.
And I'm hoping that you'll share the slides with me, or at least the resources with me, so I can post them to our website. So we're going to proceed with some examples. Beth and I are going to follow Sara Phyfer from Wilmette, who's going to talk a little bit about the municipal waste hauling contract in Wilmette.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I'll just jump right into it. In Wilmette, we have 2 solid waste agreements that expire at the end of this year. So one is for residential services, and the others are commercial franchise agreement, which includes multifamily properties. over 4 units, I think. And we've been issuing RFPs for both contracts. So food scrap collection has only been in place here since 2019. And I think that the way that it rolled out was more focused on actual collection of materials and making it easy as possible for residents to participate, but didn't really factor in a way to track participation. So right now it's a little difficult for us to measure the impact of our composting program since it's coupled with yard waste. We know how many yard waste stickers we sell, but we can really only guess what that amounts to in terms of food scrap diversion from landfills. The other challenge is that since it's coupled with yard waste, it's only seasonal. So we are just thinking through ways that we might be able to offer a year-round food scrap option. For the commercial side, we do not currently have a composting option there. We know there's demand, particularly in those multifamily residences, and we'd like to roll out some kind of option for those customers. One challenge with that, though, is space constraints where their dumpsters are, and how to sort of determine the cost versus the participation rate in any given building. Another challenge is these commercial waste collections are scheduled differently than residential, and can involve pickups with the same trucks in other communities. So it's a big undertaking to operationalizing a new service that would have to be coordinated with those other customers. We also have a lot of restaurants in town, and it would be fantastic if they had a way to compost their food scraps. Restaurants have a lot of overhead, and we don't know if they would be willing to pay for an add-on service. At this point, I really can't speak to whether the village would be willing to absorb that service, or absorb the cost of that service on their behalf. But ultimately, I think we're just facing the same challenges other organizations and just people generally, that sometimes the greener alternative costs more. So it's that balancing act of what's the appropriate cost for service that doesn't feel like people are being penalized for doing the right thing.
Okay.
That's all I got.
That's great, Sarah. Thank you so much. And Kim, I let Sarah take my time, so I don't have anything to add. Other than I hope that all of you have people working as hard on this as Sarah is in Wilmette. Thank you.
I would like to contrast Wilmette with Highland Park for a minute. So Highland Park has the seasonal collection as well of yard waste and added in the food scrap to the contract a few years ago. I'm not sure exactly what year it was. That's so distracting to have to see my face large on the screen. What we did more recently is we decided to add in the year-round composting. I think we've had year-round for maybe 3 years now. And the way we did that is that our waste contract is in conjunction with Highwood. So the contract is Highland Park and Highwood, and the pickups in Highland Park are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. The pickup in Highwood is Wednesday. Highwood is easy. Highwood is a small community. They always had a 3-bin system from day one of the contract. So everybody got a garbage bin, a recycle bin, and a food scrap and compost bin. So they were picking up the food scrap and the yard waste in Highwood on Wednesdays. What we did for the winter in Highland Park was we put in place a program where they picked up every other week on Wednesdays. And they picked up on one side of the highway 1 week and the other side of the highway the other week. And that worked out very well to add the winter compost, because you don't need every week when you don't have the yard waste, when you just have food scraps. The other thing that's different about our contract, which I think works really well in terms of pricing and incentivizing people to compost, is that we have a volume-based system. So everybody pays a monthly fee. And then on top of the monthly fee, you can pay for once a week pickup or twice a week pickup, although we're trying to get rid of twice a week. But you can also pay by the can. So every time I put out a can, I pay. I don't pay the once a week fee. I don't pay the twice a week fee. it's a lot less expensive than it would be if it were once a week. I only put out trash maybe once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. I usually put out recycling every week. So for me, my cost is basically the monthly fee plus occasionally another add-on for a bin of garbage. Right now, you can also put a sticker on the compost and that gets taken. But in August, we're going to be starting Compost for All, and for an additional $3 a month added on to the base fee, everybody's going to have a compost bin as well. So that's a cost of $36 a year per home. It is not something people can opt out of. Everyone is going to be in on that. You don't have to compost, but you're going to get your bin and you're going to pay for it. And we intentionally are adding it to the base fee rather than putting it as a separate fee that people think that, oh, I don't compost, I don't have to pay that fee. We didn't think that was appropriate. And it's got to be the whole communities are either in or out, because they've got to fill the truck because they're taking it far away. So if that's happening, they've got to have everybody opted in. So then when you're looking at like a multifamily building with what Sara was saying, and the additional cost, there isn't really an additional cost if it's a volume-based system, because you're just shifting your materials from the trash bin to the compost bin. So if you're shifting the materials and the compost is free, but the garbage costs you money, then it works out being less money. It also, I think there's an equity component here, because many of the people who are doing their own lawn care in our community are people who are lower income. So those people currently are paying a lot to have that material taken away in their yard waste bin, and that will be included going forward. So I think I don't know if you have anything else to add, Beth, if I've missed anything.
No, that sounds great. It's also clearly there are people like you advocating in Highland Park, because that sounds a little complicated, but it's also a creative way to address the problem. So I hope everyone in all different communities will encourage your folks to contact their colleagues in other communities to say, how did you do that? What could we learn from another community? So, because you just finished, I'll lead on. There's another option that we know about in Skokie and Winnetka, and that is when instead of having curbside pickup, they have made the decision to have communal composting toters centrally located or throughout their community as a way to offer food composting. I think whether it's that system or curbside, there's a huge challenge in getting people to think it's important enough to participate. So we are going to hear from Jenny Grossman in Skokie and then Liz Kunkle in Winnetka, and they're going to tell us a little bit about why their community chose that option, how much it costs, and what the participation is like. So thank you to Sara and Kim, and we're now going to hear from Jenny Grossman from Skokie. She's an environmental commissioner in her community as well as an activist.
Thanks, Beth. The last, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Sara mentioned that something that she was saying at the end, that greener costs more, which since in late 2019, early 2020, the village of Skokie entered into a franchise agreement with Collective Resource to allow residents to participate in their orange bin curbside program for a reduced rate. We've had that in place for a little over 3 years now. Earlier this year, we added as an option this drop-off system. We still have the curbside option in place, but it's a subscription service, so it's not something that's made free to all residents. But the decision over the last 2 years, we've been looking at how we can expand composting options for all residents. And one option that was put out there was to have this community collection sites. Currently, we have, I think it's up to 8 sites around town where I don't know if anyone's seen them, but they're 32-gallon Collective Resource totes, and anybody can come and drop their compost off We will be as the spring goes on, the village will be giving away buckets for people to take from their home. But currently the system is people will collect anything that can be composted commercially at home, and they can bring it in to one of these sites spread around town. And the idea is to have more and more, so that it makes it more easy for people to get their compost out. Initially, there was a group of us on the Sustainability Commission that we were tasked with looking at the options of what we can offer to residents, whether we can do a pickup program, like I think it's Deerfield that has it as part of their municipal waste hauling contract. And like Sara said, this is when we talk about this, it's just single family and multifamily up to 4 units. Over 4 units, they're part of the commercial contract. And while anyone there can participate in the drop-offs, the options that we looked at were geared towards single family and the smaller multifamily units. But in looking at these options, the options available for like recycling or garbage, where it's everybody gets that picked up, those were a big increase in cost. And the consensus was that let's build interest first before we jump into something that we don't know how much participation we'll get. Unlike Highland Park, now there is a charge for on everybody's water bill. It's about $9 charge for refuse pickup, but it's not based on how much you use or what frequency you get. And so it would be a big initial cost to the village, and more than to put on to residents. And so we thought that let's try to promote the curbside pickup option, the subscription one, and then offer the free option for anybody who wants to take that option. There definitely has been, we also, as of last week in Skokie, dropped the second garbage pickup. And so now the village only offers once a week pickup, with the backdrop of promoting composting and increased recycling, divert waste elsewhere. But there's been a lot of, one of the complaints that people have about this drop-off system is, and now I've got to go out and drive my waste, drive my compost to a site. So is that the most environmentally friendly option? There's no perfect option out there. They're still driving around, whether it's coming to your house, you going out there. But for at least how I see it, this is a first step. We definitely like to have a more robust curbside. We, as the commission, would like to have a more robust curbside program. And if there are more sites around town, the idea is you can walk, you don't have to always drive in. But equity concerns are a real big issue in Skokie. And so to only offer a paid subscription service and assume that that's going to be enough, that doesn't really cut it. And so this is kind of a bridge to getting us closer to that wherever the right place is.
Great. Thank you. It's good to hear about all these different options. And I know Liz was going to talk a little bit as well. Liz, I don't see you.
Yeah. I know, I'm sorry, I'm off screen because I'm having network issues, but I'm here, Kim. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. So we'll hear.
Okay, great.
Winnetka's drop-off program as well. Winnetka being a smaller community than Skokie, it's definitely a good middle ground.
Right, and we're all about options for that reason. So hi everyone, again, sorry I'm off screen, but this is what I look like. I'm Liz Kunkle, I'm the founder of Go Green Winnetka. I'm an environmental and forestry commissioner in Winnetka, and as of yesterday, I'm the zero waste policy manager for the Illinois Environmental Council. So I'm literally all about zero waste and food waste reduction all the time. Been working on composting systems in Winnetka for about that long. And so Winnetka started the process a few years ago by shifting to a kind of a modified pay as you throw, like Kim described in Highland Park. I also only put out my refuse, my garbage once every 3 or 4 weeks. The difference is I still have to pay for it every week. But the other, what Winnetka did institute a few years ago was a difference in the cans that are available. So people can pick small, medium, or large refuse cans. And so my cost was reduced by choosing a smaller can. And then I further just reduced costs by diverting other materials from the landfill. So on the compost side, it's not that the village has not chosen to pursue a curbside collection. The issue is that it's very hard for us to pursue that right now. We're probably the only community on this call that has our public works employees still handle all of our refuse for us within the village. So it means that we are not an attractive community for haulers to come in and pick up food scraps because we don't have the base refuse for them to build that food scrap business onto. So luckily, a couple different things happened. Back in 2016, Lakeshore Recycling Systems became our recycling hauler for the village on the residential and commercial side, which is great because they do offer food scrap collection services, typically in a curbside model. So I've worked with them since they were in the village in 2016. In 2019, our village didn't enter an exclusive agreement with a container swap provider, but it promoted the services of those providers. The two we chose were collective resource compost and zero waste compost. We wanted to include Urban Canopy, which is in the city of Chicago, but Urban Canopy said they couldn't service our community. Again, we're small potatoes. So, but the village promoted the two container swap options, and those have been available to businesses and residents and schools and any other institutions since 2019. And then the big switch evolution that happened last fall was that the village added in this drop-off option, and it's very unique. So what the village has done is work with different community partners who host the drop-off sites. And the partners that the village works with so far are 3 of our K through 12 public schools, 2 of which had composted successfully in their lunchroom pre-pandemic. And so the village chose those 2 schools and our high school, New Trier, the Winnetka campus specifically. The Northfield campus also composts, but they're not in Winnetka. So as a Winnetka drop-off, the New Trier Winnetka campus and the 2 elementary and middle schools chosen had all composted in the lunchrooms successfully pre-pandemic. So the village felt like they were knowledgeable about how compost works and would be good partners to start with. So those 3 sites opened up last August, right? Basically the first day of school. And then another District 36, a public school site, opened up at the beginning of the January semester. And then we also have a drop-off site at one of the faith houses in town. Again, it's a congregational church that happened to be composting using collective resource pre-pandemic. And so what the village has done, the way the village has structured this program, and again, it's very unique, but part of the message is you can create unique options. You can find something that works for your village. The village basically attaches the composting contract that each of the 5 host sites receive, makes the compost free for those sites. So all the compost that's collected on site there, they don't pay for collection. And then the trade-off is that they make their sites available to the public in their off hours. So the school sites are open after hours, not during school hours. And then the church and any other sites can identify hours that work for them. So what's nice about it is we have 5 sites located throughout the village. We will continue to add similar sites, but the container swap options are still an option. We're very much pursuing starting the conversation again about curbside collection, because I think that should be an option too. And last but not least, we always have and will continue to encourage backyard composting, which to the extent you can do it is the best way to deal with any organic scraps, because it uses as few resources as possible to handle them. So to that end, Go Green Winnetka we help a lot with composting services because this is what I do, as you can tell. And so we've purchased a number of compost bins from a nonprofit in Wisconsin that only makes those bins available to other nonprofits and schools. And so we ordered some from them. We have about a dozen left. They're 125-gallon bins that rest in your backyard, and we'd be happy to help you get set up. They have resources and like a cookbook that go with them and virtual webinars and things like that. So lots of resources if you have questions. But yeah, just to continue the options theme, it's all about whatever options work in your community. And typically it's more than one. So work them all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. Check out the chat because Kim Modovsky has put in some information about the Compost Palooza that she is hosting, where you can go and see all sorts of different compost options in action, including the Skokie one we just heard about from Jenny. We're going to move on to multi-unit condo and apartment buildings. Mary Beth Schaye from Collective Resources is going to talk about that, and restaurant food composting options. So we've already heard that it's a little bit more challenging in multifamily buildings because there usually isn't a dedicated space where they can keep compost. They may not have room for it, and it gets messier when it's a multi-unit building and lots of different people are managing it. But Collective Resources has come up with some options that work. So we're looking forward to hearing about them.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And then we're going to go full screen. And I'm going to hit play. Can you just see the logo?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read from my script. So I'm going to go really quickly so I can get in 10 minutes. Thanks to Beth and Kim for inviting me to talk. It's unusual that they let someone from a for-profit company speak at one of these meetings, so I hope you'll find it valuable to hear a caller's point of view. Collective Resource Compost is a mission-based, for-profit, woman-owned container swap composting business based in Evanston since 2010. Our composting service is container swap, which means that we provide a container, the customer fills it with food scraps, puts it out for pickup, and we swap it out for an empty washed container. This is one of our 5-gallon buckets with a lid waiting for pickup out in the wild. This is the top quarter of one of our 32-gallon totes. We've rebranded them as neighbor totes to get people thinking about composting communally with friends, neighbors, or relatives. So here's some composting vocab. Container swap model. So this is a model that swaps out the whole container, giving you a clean container as opposed to dumping the contents into a truck and leaving a dirty container. We think it makes it less yucky for the customer and therefore more doable. Municipal franchise agreements. So this section is on municipal franchise agreements and how they've helped us to reach more customers and divert more food scraps. Even municipalities that have yard waste tag-along programs can add a container swap municipal franchise agreement. More composting vocab. So municipal franchise agreement. So that's an agreement between a municipality and a hauler that gives the selected hauler exclusive rights to hauling in that municipality. Usually means lower prices for residents and businesses. All right, so this is our service area map. We service this whole area, greens and orange. The 4 orange municipalities are where we have franchise agreements: Evanston, Skokie, Morton Grove, and Park Ridge. In our hometown of Evanston, we're the exclusive container swap model for residents and the exclusive hauler for businesses. Evanston also has a residential yard cart tag-along program. Both of these began in November 2017. In January 2020, we became the exclusive food scrap hauler for our next door neighbors, the village of Skokie. And beginning in December 2020, we added the village of Morton Grove, and in May 2022, Park Ridge. So the benefits of municipal franchise agreements to the municipality. So it's one partner to work with. It lowers price to participants. It shows that the municipality is forward thinking and sends a message that sustainability is a value of the municipalities. It makes the municipality a more attractive place to live or own a business, and they get marketing help from the hauler. Benefits of municipal franchise agreements to the hauler. So route density, that means more customers in a concentrated area. Acknowledgement that container swap models are a viable solution, and marketing help from the municipality. So here are some Evanston stats. So this shows the growth that we've had since we started the franchise agreement. So in 2017, we had just under 200 customers, and by the end of 2018, we had 303, which was 50% growth. In 2019, 528, 2020, 725, 2021, 956, and 2022, 1,162. So when we started in October 2017, we were diverting 10.5 tons per month in Evanston. And now in May 2023, we're diverting 41 tons per month in Evanston. So that's quadrupled in that amount of time. So we think that these agreements really work, that being included in city communications about waste helps more people know that it's available. Having the city's seal of approval probably gives residents more confidence in our service because we've been vetted. Winter gap programs. So many of the yard waste tag-along programs are seasonal, only 8 months. So we created something we call the winter gap programs in a few of our franchise agreement municipalities. It's one payment for the whole season. They have very specific start and stop dates based on the yard cart programs. And some customers go back to using the yard carts in the spring, but then some continue to use our service. We have other seasonal customers who use their own backyard bin or who live in a municipality in our service area that we don't have a franchise agreement with. These do not have specific start and stop dates. I just wanted you to know that it's possible to use us seasonally without having a franchise agreement. And what you've all been waiting for, composting in condo, co-op, and apartment buildings. So anyone who is on our email list might be thinking, why does that sound familiar? Oh, it's the title of Mary Beth's most recent blog post. The blog post is just one of 3 different resources I have for you if you are interested in bringing info on this topic back to your towns. So this, and I think the links are going to be sent with an email, maybe, hopefully. So the second one is linked in that first blog post, and it's an article I wrote for Chicagoland Buildings and Environments, which is a local publication targeted toward building management companies. It's tiny on this slide, but I was pretty happy to see composting programs made easy on the cover. In it, I described the composting programs at 2 very different types of multi-unit residential buildings. And the third resource is something our customer, Cynthia Litton, wrote about her experience about starting a program in her own high-rise building. So this is the setup. So this is a picture that you will see in that Chicagoland Buildings and Environment. This is a setup at Central Bennett East, which is a vintage 18-unit co-op building. The building has 3 towers of 6 units each. It's like a very small courtyard building. Each tower has a 32-gallon tote in the basement. They created signage that educates on why to compost and what can and can't go in the bin. So these bins are put out for pickup bi-weekly, that means every 2 weeks for us, by maintenance staff. Their recycling and landfill containers are outdoors in the parking lot, so it's actually easier to compost because you don't have to leave the building. This is the setup at Optima Horizons, a modern 16-story, 248-unit condo building. They chose to use stacked buckets in their trash rooms. They have a trash room on each floor. They have many empties on site, and the maintenance people switch them out when they are full. They also, you can see this green Rubbermaid tote here, and it says pizza boxes above that. That's a container for their pizza boxes that they compost as well. So the most important thing that I want you to know about composting at multi-unit dwellings is you don't need everyone participating to begin. You can increase your frequency of pickup or number of containers as more residents become interested in participating. Composting at restaurants. We're often asked for advice on how to get more restaurants to compost, and this is a tricky one. I think Sara alluded to that earlier. We thought for sure that if restaurants knew how easy it was to compost, they'd all want to do it, but this has not been the case. Sustainability has to be a value of the owner or the corporation. So how to spot the sustainability value at a restaurant? Because I don't like to be discouraging, I want to offer you this advice that if you're looking for a restaurant that you could encourage to compost, look for signs of the sustainability value, like compostable products of any kind, either to-go containers or compostable cups, that they offer a discount for bringing your own travel mug. There are restaurants you might be able to help begin a program. And I recommend that you help them pay for it by sponsoring a pilot program. Maybe they'll continue, or maybe you will just have to be content that you were able to help them divert for that time period. Another option is to encourage your city to help them pay for it. So Sustain Evanston Business Incentive Program was begun in 2019, and Evanston has recently rebooted it and made it just a whole lot better. It allows the business to choose what they want to do, and they get different bids for whatever they want to do, and there's more money in the program. So I recommend that you check that out. And the application closes in August, at the end of August. So if you want to see like what the whole application, I would recommend that you look at it before then. Another idea is that when they do start composting, that you give them recognition when they do. IFSCC, which has been mentioned earlier, has a We Compost recognition program, and I'm the chair of that committee. There's a simple form on the website, and it often leads to them talking more about their program. I'm skipping something I said on here. So they're given, as part of their recognition, they're given a decal for their window if they want one, and recognition on social media and on the IFSCC website. So this often leads to them talking more about their program when they're given this recognition. Evanston Township High School, which I realize is not a restaurant, but they weren't really talking much about their composting program until they were given this recognition. And then they wrote an article for their website, which then got picked up by a local newspaper. So talking about composting is good. This is the We Compost decal out in the wild. It's on a coffee shop's door. And this is the We Compost logo. Okay, this is the part I didn't want to get cut off on. Food waste bans. So I wrote a blog post about this topic too back in 2020 when Vermont enacted one. The blog post is called Start Small But Think Big, Composting Around the Country. You can read that at your leisure, but also consider attending an upcoming webinar that the Illinois Recycling Foundation is presenting on May 17th. It's called, Is Illinois Ready for a Food Waste Ban? Historically, food waste bans target the biggest food waste producers and have a stepped approach. And when they are law, food donation goes up and overall waste goes down when these big producers are mandated to deal with their food waste responsibly. In other words, we are for food waste bans. I did it, didn't I? 10 minutes?
Good work. Thank you.
Okay, wait, then I got to do that thing where I stop sharing my screen.
We do. Good luck with it. Oh, there you go. Okay, we've got one more speaker, Becky Brodsky from 7 Generations Ahead, who is going to speak about school programs. So we're going to do that first, and then I know there's some questions in the chat. We're going to get back to that, but we want to hear from Becky first.
Thanks, Kim. Gonna go ahead and share my screen. And we do full screen. It'll just take a second. Okay. So I'm going to be talking, there'll be a little bit of a mention about composting, but I'm going to talk quite a bit about prevention. Kind of go upstream and figure out, you know, and share ideas about how we can prevent food waste in schools from happening in the first place, so that we don't even have to worry about how to divert it.
And if anyone's been in a school cafeteria, they are throwing away so much food.
Yeah, it's obscene, and I have some photos to prove it. So kind of as a basis for this talk, I'm just going to use the food waste reduction toolkit that Jen alluded to, that we created in conjunction in partnership with the Wasted Food Action Alliance. I'm going to kind of use that as a basis, because that's kind of the structure of the toolkit. It's a guide that schools can pick up and just use as a reference wherever they are in their food waste reduction journey. And it's available for download on the 7 Generations Ahead website, as well as the Wasted Food Action Alliance website. And we'll share this presentation afterwards as well with Kim and Beth, so they can share it with you guys. And all the links will be in there, including one to download the toolkit. So the toolkit is based on this food recovery hierarchy. This is created by the EPA. And as you can see, source reduction is at the top. So we really want to try to prevent food waste from happening in the first place. And then towards the bottom is composting. So again, this is the structure and what I'll be following quickly, running through. Problem of food waste in schools that Kim mentioned. Over 7 billion school meals are served each year, and much of this food is going to waste, while 1 in 6 children is food insecure. And ReFed estimated that uneaten food in K-12 schools contributed to the equivalent of 2.89 million metric tons of CO2 in 2019. It really is astounding. And it also wastes water, energy, labor, money, just a whole slew of other things. So here's a snapshot of a lunch at a middle school with 980 students, where we did an audit and we broke down the different types of food waste. And you can see, so there was a total of 449 pounds of waste, and food waste comprised 75% of that waste by weight. And this is the same school, 52% of the food that was served went uneaten. Over half went uneaten. So as you can see, 48% of the food and milk was consumed, the rest went into the landfill. So some factors that contribute to food waste in schools: seated lunchtime is not long enough. There are certain reimbursable meal requirements, a lack of understanding about offer versus serve, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Heavily packaged foods, so students take so much time to open their food, they don't even have time to eat it. They might be served whole fruits that they either can't peel or just don't have time to eat. Portions might be too large for the younger students. And then students just want to chat, then they only have 20 minutes to eat. So sometimes they have to choose between eating and talking and socializing. So what Jen mentioned before, you can't manage what you don't measure. So we always recommend that schools start off by doing food waste audits, or waste audits in general, to get a handle on how much food is being thrown out. And we do that work quite a bit with schools. So we do have a food waste audit guide on our website that has a data sheet and a guide to walk through schools through doing food waste audits in their lunchroom. And that's available for download on our website. And here are some examples of waste audits that we've done at schools. So the green bags, you can see up on the right, that's food and trays. And then you see share tables, that's where students can put, and again, I'll talk about that in just a minute. They can put unopened factory sealed items and whole fruits from the school lunch on the share table. So at that school on the upper left, that they threw out, I think it was about 75 oranges in one day of lunch. And on the bottom, you can see there's a whole bunch of pears and apple and oranges. And so all that food is going into a landfill potentially. We do promote the use of share tables. So we hope that after we work with schools, they're inspired to set up share tables once they see all of the perfectly edible food going to waste. So some ideas about how to prevent food waste. Scheduling, try to work on having talking to administrators. Is there a way to have longer seated lunchtime? Is there a way to have recess before lunch? So students have the opportunity to work up an appetite. And lots of studies have shown that research has shown that recess before lunch greatly reduces food waste. Enhancing the cafeteria experience, just making it a more pleasant place to eat. Temperature, lighting, all of that really has an impact on how much students eat. School gardens, serving local healthy food that actually tastes better, working on menu planning, food preparation, student taste tests. There's all kinds of things that can be done to prevent food waste from occurring. And then offer versus serve, which I'll talk about on the next page a little more detail. That definitely reduces food waste, particularly milk waste. And then also sending home information about how to reduce waste in lunches from home. So offer versus serve is for schools that participate in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program, and schools that don't use offer versus serve have to serve 5 items. They just put it on the tray, there's no choice. When schools participate in offer versus serve, students have the option to decline up to 2 items. They must take a fruit or a vegetable, and then they have to take 3 items. One has to be a fruit or vegetable, but they do not have to take a milk. And there is definitely a huge misconception about the need to take a milk. So we encourage schools to make sure their food service staff is educated about offer versus serve, that students know about it, and that they provide signage at the serving line. And these are some examples of the signage. And offer versus serve is required in all high schools, but it's optional in elementary and middle schools. But it definitely has been shown to greatly reduce food and milk waste in schools. Here are some other ideas of things that can reduce waste. Milk dispensers offering water as an option to drink instead of milk for those students who don't want milk. Bringing reusable containers. Students are much more likely to bring their food home and not throw it away if they have reusable containers. And then just serve them good food, directly on the tray without all the packaging. That will definitely, make it more appetizing to eat, make a more pleasant eating experience, and there'll be less waste. Food recovery and redistribution. There are a lot of policies and laws regarding share tables and the redistribution of food that encourage it. It is highly encouraged. There's the Good Samaritan Act. There are a whole slew of laws at the federal and the state level that encourage food recovery. So in the toolkit, we share how to set up and operate a share table, and options for redistributing whatever is left on the share table at the end of the lunch periods. What are your options for redistributing that food rather than just tossing it at the end of lunch if students haven't taken it from the share table? My cursor is not working for some reason. There we go. Whoops, sorry. So some policies. I'm not sure what's going on here. My cursor stopped working. Well, the last slide was referred to all the policies, and they all have links. So that will be shared so that you can share that there is a lot of support backing up the use of share tables and donating that food as well. There's some examples of different share tables in schools, as you can see. A lot is collected in every and meal periods down on the bottom right. Those are all perfectly good apples that would have been thrown into the landfill that are out for students to take. And this particular school calls it a snack bin, so they'll leave it out and students can take it, and they can also, I think, have it out in their after school program. I'm not sure what's going on here. Sorry.
Can you
go? And then composting. Yeah, I'm using the mouse. It's weird. My keyboard's not working. So composting, as everybody's talking about, it's a great option. So if you can't prevent that food waste from happening, what do you do with your food scraps that are left? So we work with schools to help them set up commercial composting programs in their lunchrooms. And as we all know, these are some of the benefits, and it's really great. It's a great activity to involve students in the composting program in the lunchrooms. So some schools do on-site composting and some will do commercial composting. And on-site is great because it's a hands-on activity, can be used in science classes. It's great. You can really physically involve the students in it. And whereas commercial composting, those food scraps are being taken off-site. And these are examples, a couple examples of sorting stations in school lunchrooms. You see that starts with a share table, and then you've got your composting, and then the trays that the students stack. Those are also compostable, but they stack them because they take up much less room in the landfill that way. And then those stacked compostable trays will be placed in the compost bin at the end of the lunch period. So engaging students, food, and there's so many different ways to engage students in schools in food waste reduction. They can help conduct the food waste audits, field trips to a landfill, to a commercial composting facility. They could write stories about food waste. Just creating that awareness makes such an enormous, enormous difference. So when we just did a food waste audit last week at a middle school, and the students, we got feedback from teachers after they kind of discussed it with the ecology club. And literally the students said they were horrified at the amount of food waste, looking at these whole pieces of pizza in the bucket, and all of the food that was left on the share table untouched. So they could also help manage the share table, a food donation program, and then they can advocate for change. We always, encourage students to contact the administration, contact their principals, and let them know how they feel about the food waste, and then share their ideas for reducing and say, we'd love to see a share table. We can help manage it. How can we make this happen? And then, as Mary Beth mentioned, communication is very important, and celebrating those successes. So again, Mary Beth mentioned the We Compost program. So it's great for schools to participate in that. They can put that sticker on their entrance. So it intrigues, parents and people who come in the school. They ask questions, and it's just great for the community to know what efforts the schools are taking to minimize their food waste and divert food waste from landfill. And it can also be in school newsletters and bulletin boards. There's all sorts of ways that schools can share this information within the school community and with the families at home and the community at large. And that's all. Happy to answer questions. And again, I'll share the slides because I know I covered a lot, and there are a lot of amazing resources out there for schools.
Thank you, Becky.
Sure.
There's one question that is for you in the chat before we let you move on. How much of the food on the share tables is taken by the end of the day? That's from Ryan Harrison from our new Go Green Wakanda.
Yeah, that's a great question. It varies from school to school. In some schools, there's very little left. So there might be 5 items left. In some schools, they're left with an enormous amount, and then they have to figure out what to do with it at the end of all of the lunch period. So it really varies. It could vary on, how much a lot of times the placement of the share table, the kids may not be aware of it. So where it's positioned, the signage, all of that is really important, and to let kids know. And there are also some schools that have what they call one-way share tables. Well, they might be worried about allergies or other things. So they may just allow students to put items on the table, but then they're just collected at the end and then either donated or reserviced. So it's not exactly a share table because students aren't actually taking from it during the meal periods.
And can it be served again the next day?
Yeah, it can be. So the USDA encourages that and supports that, but all of these procedures, these ideas, share tables, it all comes down to your local health department. So we always say, it's supported at the federal and state level, but the local health department has the last say. So we encourage the school districts and schools who are interested in setting up share tables to consult with their local health department, have a conversation about it, about, what they allow. And sometimes maybe in writing, they don't allow it, but they will create variances once the school kind of makes the case and explains to them how the table is going to be used.
Thank you. This reminds me of a quick example. A lot of kids think they're going to get in trouble if they don't finish their food at lunch. And my kids, I always told them to just, whatever they didn't finish, leave it in their lunchbox and bring it home. And I found that one of my kids was eating only half of their sandwich every day. So I started sending them with half a sandwich. And then at one point that half a sandwich was completely, sometimes I'd get 1 bite or 2 bites brought back home. And then by the end of the year, or the next year in school, that half sandwich was gone. And so I asked the child, do you need more food? Yes, they needed more food, but they didn't need a whole sandwich. So we did 3/4 for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we encourage schools to talk to students about that and say, please bring your food home. And we get a lot of feedback. I'm going to get in trouble. But we say, just have these conversations. It's not about, you're not doing the right thing by not eating your lunch. It's just, you want to have a conversation about how much you can eat and what you will and won't eat.
Yeah,
So,
like that one school clearly shouldn't be serving oranges.
yes, and that's what we found. I talked to a lot of it's food service
It
in
takes
schools
too
is
much
very
time to peel them.
complicated. Exactly. Sometimes they score the oranges and it helps the students peel them, but then if they're scored, they can't be put on the share table. So it's complicated.
But before we get into too many of the details of that, I think we need to thank you so much, Becky. That was really great.
You're
Someone brought up an area that we haven't even addressed. Many of us have medical care facilities, nursing homes, memory care facilities in our communities. Those produce a lot of food and a lot of food waste. So that is something Andrew Hoffman brought that up. That you could have a conversation with the management of those facilities. I think it's also important for us to remember that we don't have to set up a system that captures 80, 90, 100% of the food waste. If you can capture 20, 30% to start, that's amazing. So keep, make sure that your goals are too overwhelming that you don't even take the first step. We have covered a lot of different areas. It was really fast. It was great. I really want to, if
You always say, Beth, it's like tapas, right?
Tapas.
So if you
Just
want
a
more
little bit.
information, all these resources will be posted to the website.
So if you have some key questions for our speakers, if you could type it into the chat really, really quickly, Kim will keep an eye on that. Think back to the big picture, think back to municipal waste hauling contracts, the drop-off programs. I know the Glencoe Community Garden for years had a drop-off program at their community garden. I thought that the information about multi-unit condo and apartment buildings was especially important. I think we'd all be surprised how many buildings we have in our communities where you have a lot of people in one space. So theoretically, it should be much more efficient to capture the food scraps. So Mary Beth, thank you for that. All the programs sound really great. Skokie and Winnetka, your drop-off programs, and Glencoe has that as well. So if you haven't started this in your community, I hope you've gotten the information that you need to take a step forward. All it takes is somebody starting to make those connections and ask the questions. Also, no one mentioned talking to your local chamber of commerce. Many of your businesses and residential facilities and restaurants may be chamber members, and the chamber may be a way for you to reach a lot of those. Maybe you could offer to go to a meeting and give a 5-minute pitch on why businesses should start thinking about this. So that was something I wanted to bring up. So Kim, interrupt me if you find questions in the chat, but I forgot a few important announcements that I'd like to say now before we start community reports. Leaf blower update. There were 11 communities that worked for more than a year to research gas-powered leaf blowers, their benefits and problems with them. That was headed up by Glencoe, Highland Park, and Wilmette. They have come up with a report. They don't make recommendations, but they have gathered a lot of information, and that report is available to all communities, whether or not you're part of that 11 member group. Almost everyone in the 11 member group is working towards stricter restrictions on gas-powered leaf blowers. So if you don't have any in your community, now's a good time to get that report and share it with your staff, your trustees, and your environmental commissioners if you have them, because they've done the work and you can make some decisions based on the work that they've already done. If anybody has the link to that report, you could put it in the chat, or I know you could talk to Wilmette or Highland Park to get the copy of that report. It's posted publicly.
I believe it's on the city website.
City website, right,
Yeah.
in Highland Park. Also, the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District is very eager, if you're in part of that district, or if you have a different mosquito abatement district, they're very eager to work with your community to address the growing issue of private companies spraying pesticides in private people's yards. It is leading to pesticide resistant mosquitoes, and this is of a real concern. So there's an immediate health issue, there's immediate habitat and ecology problem with the sprays. But if you're thinking just public health, our mosquito abatement districts need to be the people controlling any kind of pesticide use with mosquitoes, not pay to spray companies. So if that's not an issue that you're looking into, that is a growing concern. Dave Zazra at the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District would be happy to talk to anyone about that. I also wanted to highlight again, for those of you that don't know, various members have dedicated sustainability coordinators like Northbrook, but Wilmette just hired Lucy Mellon. She's on, and she is shared by the village, the park district, the library, the schools, and New Trier Township. It is a great step in the right direction. She's got way too much work than one person should ever have to do. But if your community doesn't think it's ready to hire a sustainability coordinator, see if you can't follow that model and suggest sharing one. Also, regarding sustainable school coordinators, there is a webinar happening making the case for hiring a dedicated school sustainability coordinator. That is coming up. Becky Brodsky, you sent it to me. I've got the link, but I'm not sure. May 11th.
Yeah.
And who's the organization that's putting it
It's
on?
the Center for Green Schools. I can find the link and put it in the chat. And they
Okay,
also
great.
just released a toolkit. So if you want to advocate for hiring your school district, hiring a sustainability coordinator, you now have the tools, which is amazing. Statistics, like all kinds of case studies. It's great, great resource.
Right. So I just had a high school sustainability meeting this morning. There were 17 of us on that call. There's an opportunity there to work with every school, every high school, every school district. If they don't have a sustainability committee, that's the first step, because that doesn't cost them any money. But getting to do it really, really well, you really need a staff person who is organizing it and overseeing it. Okay, so if I see 6 things in the chat.
I think everything in the chat has been responded to in the chat.
Okay,
So
super.
if you asked a question in the chat, please go to the chat and look for the answer. The only thing that wasn't answered, Becky answered live, so.
Okay, wow, we are right on time. That doesn't always happen. Speakers, we know you're all so busy. You feel free to sign off if you'd like to, but thank you for coming and sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. We're about to start the community reports. This is where the different Go Green groups talk about what they're doing so we can share and inspire and learn from each other. So I can.
And we have, you said we had about 42 communities signed up. I'm sure that some of them may or may not still be here. But I'd like to ask that people don't just list events that they have coming up. If you have events coming up, please post those to the Go Green Illinois website, gogreenillinois.org. And there's a button at the top that says post an event. And then everybody can go to the calendar and see all of the events. If we'd prefer that you report on other great things that you're doing so that it doesn't just become a calendar listing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. I'm going to start with Winnetka. Liz had to sign off. She just mentioned that they're doing a lot of habitat work. Liz is very involved in habitat and composting. They've got a yard tour, a fall plant sale, and they're participating in the solar tour. She said it was September 23rd. I've got it on as the 30th of September. So someone else will be able to find that out before the end of the talk. And I'll mention Wilmette's, and then we're going to start at the beginning of the alphabet with Arlington Heights. Many of the people we don't know exactly who signed in, so I will, call A through E to begin with. So be ready to be in the batter's box if your community starts with an A through an E. So Wilmette, we are doing a lot of events. This is a very, very busy time for us. A lot of habitat events. We have a native plant sale on Saturday. We are determined to start a pilot in a 20-unit building to do food composting. We're going to be partnering with Collective Resource, and Go Green Wilmette is going to pay for that pilot. We've also paid, we have green grants. We're fortunate enough to have enough money to give small green grants to businesses or any kind of project that wouldn't happen if they didn't get a little bit of funding. If your community wants to do that, you can find people to put money in that pot, I'm quite sure. So we are helping a restaurant go green, and we're going to help a business start food composting. Also interesting, someone mentioned to me, I think it was Becky, or I think it was Beth, that if you have synagogues in your community, there's a tradition pre-Passover to clean out food pantries. So it's a perfect time to deliver toters to synagogues so that that food that's part of their tradition doesn't go to a landfill, but goes into a toter. I thought that was a really great idea. Mary Allen, because you have been doing this for so long and you are such a resource. I see your face. I'm not sure whether you're still with us. I want to recognize the fact that
I'm still here.
Great. Mary Allen is retiring after an amazing career at the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. She has been an incredible resource to all of us. We are going to miss her a lot. I know she's leaving things in really, really good hands, but Mary Allen, I want to thank you for all you have done. You were one of the first people I ever contacted in 2006. Do you have anything you'd like to share with this group?
27 years is a long time ago. And we all began together, and look how it's grown. It just, I leave the agency in good hands. Teresa Greening is on the call, and she can, even at the end, if there's time, talk about a SWINK grant that is going to be extended to libraries this year, little bit new. So it's always nice to get new blood, new ideas. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be able to get paid to to relay my own personal mission of the importance of taking care of our environment and our earth beyond 7 generations. So kudos to all of you who have been in the trenches with me all these years. And those of you that are new, get inspired. There's so many wonderful resources, of course, for Northern and Cook County, for SWINK communities. The agency's website is swank.org, SWANCC. Put a shameless plug in there. And we do have a lot of resources. Even though we have a small staff, we have mighty hearts. So thank you for the opportunity, Beth, to just even to say goodbye. I'm not going away. I'll be around, but different capacity moving forward.
Okay, and before the community reports, does Teresa Greinick with SWANK want to give a 30-second pitch for the grants that are available? You have to unmute yourself. Okay, I know she's there. She just put something in the chat. But Teresa, when you come back on, you can tell us about those grants. Okay. Do any of the communities between A and E want to unmute and talk? That's Arlington Heights, Barrington, Brookfield, Chicago, Cook County, Crystal Lake, Deerfield, DeKalb, Des Plaines, Downers Grove, and Eagle, Colorado. Any comments? You each have a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm going to do this fast. It's a beautiful day. If we finish up early, that's okay.
Is that Karen? You're muted.
Who do we have who wanted to speak up? Okay, anyone from Elmhurst, Evanston? If I skipped you, put it in the chat. I'll be sure to call on you, okay? No reports from Elmhurst or Evanston. Glen Ellen always has something to say because they do all kinds of great stuff. Karen and Jacqueline are on.
Hey there, this is Karen. Jacqueline had to step out for a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to put something in the chat about a program we had through the league. We do a lot of things with the League of Women Voters, I know a lot of people here do. Plastic pollution and community solution. We did a big event at Cantini that also the next day involved some municipalities. And we did like a workshop on all kinds of different plastic pollution solutions. So I'll put the YouTube link in the website there. We are working to try to get the Glen Ellen Comprehensive Plan, which has been going on, being revised for 13 years, to have any sustainability language in it whatsoever. So Go Green they've asked Go Green actually to create an input there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here. So if you guys could grab any beverage.
Someone has to mute. Okay.
It's okay. Someone else is watching. And then we're doing a compost workshop with the Park District. We work a lot closely with the Park District, and also a native pollinator sale. So we're combining the two for a little bit of a fundraiser and to spread awareness of composting. We're doing our 4th sport swap as well, and that has worked out really well if anybody needs information on that. And the last thing is we're going to have 2 interns this summer. We're very excited. One is here with me right now from Ohio State University, who lives in Aurora. But if anybody has experience with interns or wants to get, or is going to have a summer intern and wants to get the interns to chat, please contact Go Green. Thanks.
Awesome.
Can we go back to Teresa? She's able to talk now. She was in the car.
Pulled off the side of the road, I think. Teresa, you're on.
We may have lost her. It looks like we lost actually a lot of people.
All right, well, we don't have her. I also wanted to say that we do have a intern in Wilmette. If your organization is not considered an intern, there she is, Annie Molman. Give a wave, Annie. Interns are an incredible boon to an organization strapped for capacity. Go Green Wilmette has developed a 1-page description of an intern. Responsibilities. If you would like to take a look at it and modify it for your own use, please contact me, Beth at Go Green Wilmette. And kudos to those of you who have gotten an intern. They are fantastic, and you in turn can help them focus in on what they're interested in and even launch their career. Okay, so
sorry to interrupt. Can Teresa jump in?
Yep.
So sorry, being on the go and trying to make my phone work at the same time is causing me challenges. I apologize. So yes, very much kudos to Mary. She will be missed and has huge shoes to fill. But Swank is back to offering our grants to our member communities, as Mary had started them as $500 grants to member communities at schools. Those are still available. They have been released for schools to go ahead and apply. The focus on those grants is to reduce carbon footprint. We're kind of expanding our boundaries on that a little bit, but focusing on waste reduction. And then also a couple of months ago, we opened them the same style of grant to member communities for Swank to libraries as well. We've talked to a couple libraries who are applying, and we've had a couple submissions already. So the hope of that, again, is that those will reach out to more patrons in a very focused manner to help get the word out and cause some raising the bar efforts to waste reduction. So just quickly, that's what those grants are about. They are also posted on our website, as Mary had said, swank.org.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
So Glencoe, Glenview, Highland Park. I saw Dora St. Clair's hand up. She's with the Friends of the Green Bay Trail.
Hi. Yeah, we are expanding. We're going a little bit north and a little bit south, taking down buckthorn and putting in natives like we always do. And we have 150 plants that need planting this weekend. Saturday at Mary Street, everybody's going to gather and bring your gloves and your enthusiasm, and we're going to get dirty. And then we're going to have a barbecue after that for the volunteers. And for the rest of the season on Saturdays, go to the website, go gbtrail.org and find out what's going on which Saturday and where to meet. And we've got we pair with the Glencoe Library to bring speakers in. So look on our website for that as well. Okay. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else from Glencoe or Glenview? We've had a lot of people drop off, so we're going to go through this quickly. Highland Park.
Yeah, I don't know. Candace, do you want to say anything? If you're on, or should I?
Hi, I just wanted to mention and to ask if anybody would like to give me advice. I would love to have it. Our team in Go Green Highland Park has a subgroup called Habitat Highland Park, which does all kinds of stuff having to do with attracting pollinators and making things safe for them. And one of the things we want to launch this summer is a modest garden tour of 6 to 10 gardens in our town that are doing different kinds of things to attract pollinators. And we have been using the Go Green Deerfield experience as a guide. And if anyone would like to inject something into the chat about do's and don'ts or tips or anything like that, I'm very anxious to have them.
Go Green Wilmette has just created a manual for how to run a yard tour. We're just doing the final touches on it. If any community would like to take a look at that, I need to get it to Kim to post it on the Go Green Illinois website. But if anyone's interested in that manual now, you can have it. And remember, you can do a yard tour with 2 or 3 yards. Does not have to be a huge event, but it's a great way to show people how important it is to change how we do habitat in our yards.
Yeah, well, not only that, but I got to your number, a small garden, a small tour is fine. Not only that, but when I suggested to the folks in Go Green Deerfield that we were trying to aim for something like 10, they said, don't do that, too big. And I was so grateful for them to put the brakes on, because it's very easy to overeat in that kind of situation.
Absolutely. And I will say, you have an impressive library behind you.
We also had a really good Arbor Day event that the city sponsored last weekend, which it was really well attended. It had people giving out trees and pollinator plants and milkweed and all sorts of different things, and collecting bikes for walking bikes. So that was a good event. We do Arbor Day rather than Earth Day because the weather's usually better a week later.
True. Okay, great. Let's see, LaGrange. We've got David Husmuller from Lake County or Lincolnwood. We've got the L's. Anyone from LaGrange, Lake County, or Lincolnwood? Okay, any reports from Morton Grove, Naperville, or Niles?
I'm hoping Kim will jump in about the Coastapalooza.
Okay, I have no idea how this will go, but we're having a kickoff on my driveway. Our partners include the local library. Morton Grove has a book bike, and so the book bike will be there. That means they're also helping publicize this. Bonnie, I think, has left, but we have Niles Township also participating. Morton Grove is in Niles Township. So they are also helping spread the word. We have a local caterer who is one of the tour stops. She will let people bring their own containers for grab and go salads, and lives in Skokie, and so is sneaking some of her compost into the Skokie bins. And so she's also helping publicize. And then we have 6 additional folks who have opened up their backyards. Now I'm hearing maybe we overreached with that. I don't know. But we have 8 stops on our tour. And my thought is people are going to just kind of go independently. But we'll see what happens. It's all a big experiment, but I'm excited. And Collective Resource, of course, has been a great partner in this. And I'm hoping that we will introduce some folks to the services available through Collective Resource, and to some degree Groot, who chose not to be involved in the event. So,
okay, thank you. I see three communities already want to see the manual, which means I'll get it to the top of the list, finish it up, and get it to you. Alexandria Zuck has her hand up, and I don't know what community she's from.
Hi, this is Alexandria Zuck. I'm from Go Green LaGrange.
Okay. Oh, we missed you. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't. My daughter's sleeping next to me, so I had to close her ears. We were just wanting to let you know that we're starting our seasonal collection at our farmers market. We're kicking off this Thursday. And we're collecting Legos, Barbie dolls, and families of Barbies to include Ken, that we then donate to local other local organizations that we partner with. And then each week going forward, we do a different collection that then is redispersed through the community to reduce our impact on the landfills. And that's what we're doing over here.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, Northbrook.
Hi, this is Sheetal. So one thing we did on our end was we actually had a field trip to the commercial compost facility of Waste Management last week. And, you know, we have also been just talking to collective resources. So just understanding what options are to present to our trustees and the commission and, you know, just everyone around town. As Northbrook has a very low participation in the compost program overall at this point in time. The interesting part that we learned with the waste management program was that if you send in only yard waste versus if you send in mixed waste, they treat it very differently, which was interesting. So because they sell their compost, like, you know, the way these people make money is they resell their compost back. So they sell it via Scott's Organics, and Scott's Organics needs the compost to come only from yard waste. It cannot come from a mixture of yard waste and food waste together. So they actually have completely independent areas where they compost either or. So that was a big learning for us, you know, when we went over there. And the other thing which I'm interested in, again, with these commercial programs, you know, where you have more of the community drop-off locations, is how much like, you know, contamination there is going to be overall. So that's something that, you know, I would be interested in learning for Northbrook. Because our contract really comes up in 2024. So there's a lot of like pre-research that we are putting into that effort. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Northfield, I think Ann Peterson is gone. She is not here any longer. She is now the head of Go Green Northfield, and they have already revamped their newsletter and their website. And they also have, Northfield is tiny, 5,000 people, but they are doing good things. Their social media presence is really obvious. So that's Northfield's report. Palatine or Park Forest, Park Ridge? River Woods or Rolling Meadows? So these people may have dropped off, but these are all the communities that were registered for this program. So the talks this morning are going to a lot of places. Skokie, report from Skokie. We already heard about the drop-off program with Jenny Grossman. Any other reports from Skokie? Vernon Hills or Wakanda? Okay, Wakanda is brand new. They're doing great things. It is a guy who decided he could start Go Green Wakanda. He recruited his wife, doubling their capacity, and they are, oh, Ryan Harrison, you are there. Do you want to say anything?
I am here. So like you said, we're a brand new group. It's basically just me. Well, it is just me. My wife helps out. We were at the compost event on Sunday, and we had a really good response there. A lot of people come through, and we got to educate a lot of people on our curbside composting program that we do have, fortunately, here in Wakanda. We are planning on trying to recruit more help over the summer and trying to expand, but little by little, I guess.
So if anybody has any advice for Ryan, he's brand new, and kudos to you, Ryan, for stepping up and deciding your community needed a group and that you were going to do it. So we need people like you everywhere. Okay, Wheeling. Okay, I don't think we've got Winthrop Harbor on. Hey, Benjamin Crumstock, you are deep into the food composting. I just wanted to call on you to see whether or not you wanted to say anything. You're on mute, Benjamin.
Oh, better. Thanks for the opportunity. The one thing I'll say is that it's important to remember that this was focused on diversion, and the other half of the equation is use. We want this infrastructure to exist to accommodate and accept and process these materials. We need to use that compost park districts, public works projects, school, sports turf. It's great stuff. It's not snake oil sale. So if we want to create the capacity to create a waste ban down the road, or food waste ban down the road, we need the healthy infrastructure. And along those lines, we need to work on the contamination issue. All those fruit stickers, innocent products that you think are compostable, the greenwashing that happens, just be attentive to what you put into that container. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that reminds me, Benjamin, there is a webinar on, is Illinois ready for a food waste ban? When is that webinar?
It's next Wednesday. I'm gonna go pull my calendar. It's the Illinois Recycling Foundation.
I think it's on the Go Green website, Go Green Illinois.
Okay, I don't know about all of you experts. It's May 17th. Thank you, Mary Beth Schaye. I don't know about you experts, but I feel confident that in 10 years, throwing food, sending food to a landfill will be absolutely not allowed. What do you think, Ben?
If we work for it, we'll get it. So I hope you're right. I hope it's 8 years.
Yeah, let's hope so. Food has value, and we're going to think it's crazy that we sent it to landfills. Okay, well, it is 2:49, and Mary Beth Schaye says she shared the link earlier in the chat. So Kim and I, this meeting will be posted to the Go Green Illinois YouTube channel by tomorrow. We always we will put resources on the website, and we say the chat, which has all the resources as well. So if you need any of the resources, Kim, where will they find it on the website?
There will probably be a post on the website. I have to figure out what the best way of doing that is.
Okay.
It'll either be a post on the homepage where you go to the different posts under waste, or it'll be in the resource section. It might be too much for a post.
Okay. Janet from
Shared
Palatine.
all of my links in the chat.
What?
I shared all of my links in the chat, and I shared the Illinois Recycling Foundation webinar on food waste bans twice.
Awesome. Great. We have not heard from Schaye in Glenview, Janet in Palatine, Mary Monday, or Denise Pearl. Would any of you like to say anything in our last few minutes together? No in Palatine. Okay. Anybody else?
This is Mary in Glenview. We have gotten 2 local grants this summer or this spring. Sherry's was on artificial light at night pollution, noise pollution, and traffic. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight. She had a wonderful lecture by which is going to be on our website. I'm sorry, I don't know if it has been posted yet. It was a wonderful 1-hour-long lecture by an Argonne scientist about the truly awful effects of too much artificial light at night, both indoors to ourselves and outside to all forms of life. So that is worth checking. When that gets posted, I'll see if I can post that to the Go Green Illinois website. It's really, really wonderful. The other grant is for what we call our happy grant, which is for working toward community wildlife habitat certification through the National Wildlife Federation. So we're joining with the Glenview Gardeners on their garden walk this year, and we're adding a couple of native gardens to that. So that will be good, and we're working towards certification. We have an HOA whose vision is to return their property to more how it was when some of the landscape commissioners in their HOA, who are our age, in their 70s, the way it was back when they remember pheasants flying over Willow Road. So they are doing a whole native gardening project, which we hope to follow, and it will be a model for other HOAs, but this is probably going to be over at least a year. So exciting things going on.
That's awesome. Again, sharing great ideas between communities is really important. We are taking an idea from Highland Park and starting a bag swap at our farmers market. It will be part education, reducing plastic, getting us out there. We're going to get some more volunteers to help with that because that's going to be every week. Also, Go Green Reads is happening every 2 months. Last night, it was started by Go Green Winnetka, Go Green Northfield, and Go Green Wilmette. If you'd like to add your community members, send an invitation to them for the Go Green Reads, we'd love to have you. We had people from 15 different communities. It's open to everybody. We read A World on the Wings by Scott Weidensaul about bird migration. 70 people registered for it. 50 people showed up. It was really great. So you are all welcome to join us for that. Dor.
Just about what you're talking about. Did you get any feedback from the bookstore, whether they're getting any benefit from helping you host these things?
We always encourage people to buy the books from the bookstall as opposed to Amazon.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I was just curious.
John Grand, who's an employee there, he helps us, and it's just a great way to bring people together, and you do a deep dive in a topic. The topic in July, we're going to have an author. It's going to be live or in person in July. It's a children's book about restoring prairies. It's like a middle schooler book with the author. And I think the topic in September is going to be secondhand, which is what is really happening to all that stuff we give away. We think we're doing a really good thing. And the dirty truth about what happens to the secondhand things we give away is really important to learn about. So I believe that's going to be the topic for September. So is anyone else?
A couple more things about Glencoe.
Okay.
Compost, the community garden in Glencoe started a compost program where you would drop things off right by the gate. And it became so popular, they couldn't handle it. So in comes the village of Glencoe. And the drop-off point is now on Temple Court, where any resident can drop off their compost. And some of it goes to the garden, some of it goes to Glencoe. And Glencoe, behind, back of the yards, has mulch where they grind up the trees. There's a big pile of mulch that you can pull your station wagon up to or whatever, and fill up 50-gallon drums with that stuff. They have soil and compost, and whatever they didn't use for the gardens, they allow the residents to drive back there and pick up stuff. So if people start a composting program, the villages might have enough space to make a pile for residents to come get it.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Kim, do you have anything you want to say to the group?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, our next meeting, every other month, we have a very small meeting just for the leaders. That's just about 12 or 15 of us. And no program, but that if you are a leader, you will get an invitation to that. And that's going to be on June 13th. Our next meeting is the 11th of July. And Kim and I are open to your suggestions for a meeting topic. They always come together. They're always interesting. And I want to thank, we've got some speakers still on. Thank you for coming. And I hope you will join us again on July 11th for another interesting topic to be determined. So that gives you 4 minutes to go enjoy this beautiful day that you didn't think of.
Recording. Bye.
All right. Hey, thank you.